Are there any specific supplements for pulmonary sarcoidosis that you would recommend?
Yeah, so if you look at the literature on supplements and sarcoidosis, last time I looked, there's only two supplements that are mentioned: vitamin D and quercetin. Those are the only ones that I found that actually have trials on them. There are other ones that people think mechanistically that can help, right? So let's talk about quercetin. Quercetin is a very, very powerful antioxidant. It's found in things like onions. It's found in like apples, those types of foods, green tea. So quercetin is a really strong antioxidant. There is some data showing that quercetin can help in sarcoidosis. The reason is there's studies showing that in sarcoid, you have a deficiency of antioxidants because it's an inflammatory disease, right? And so your antioxidant, what we call total antioxidant capacity, gets used up. So antioxidants are something that people thought were beneficial, and they looked at quercetin because it's one of the strongest. And that study did show benefit. I think the dosing in that was 500 milligrams twice a day. I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head, but that's kind of the usual dosing you see with quercetin is 250 to 500 milligrams once or twice a day. The other is vitamin D, and vitamin D is kind of tough because sarcoid, you can have increased vitamin D levels. So vitamin D is made in our bodies from sun UV actually hitting our skin. We take cholesterol, we turn it into a vitamin D precursor. That goes to our liver, and then our liver turns that into a kind of a pre-vitamin D. And then that circulates to our kidneys where it gets activated into what we call the 125 version of vitamin D, which is the active version of vitamin D. Now, the enzyme that activates that final version, it's also present in the granulomas that you get with sarcoid. And so one of the reasons why people tell you don't take vitamin D with sarcoidosis is because you can actually have very high levels of that activated version of vitamin D. But what you don't want is actually a vitamin D deficiency. It can be a little tricky to tell in sarcoid. So how do you do that? You need to measure calcium levels. You need to measure the 125 vitamin D and the 25 vitamin D. Most of the time when we measure vitamin D, we're measuring the 25. And what you'll see in people who have high levels of the active version, they have a low 25 and a high 125, meaning that vitamin D is being kicked over at an increased rate to that active version. And typically you'll see people in this scenario will have an elevated calcium. They'll also have a suppressed PTH. But before going on any type of vitamin D supplementation with sarcoidosis, you have to check both vitamin D versions, your calcium, your kidney function, and your PTH level. And you have to integrate all of that information in to decide what dose to take. And then you want to keep doses less than 1,000 international units a day.